KTLK AM 1150. It is, yes, your voice. I'm David Cruz. The start of another week. And here we is. Thank you for being here. Just me.
Your commute feeling shorter? That's just a side effect of listening to your voice. K-Talk AM 1150.
KTLK AM 1150. It is your voice. And if you're going to use it, you need to be informed, which is why we've invited on this Monday our political analyst, the man who breaks it down to really keep it simple, but to help us understand the way things work. Professor Peter Mathews, welcome back to the program, Professor. Good to have you.
Hello, Dave. Good to be here.
I'll tell you, there is so much that I want to get to, so let me just jump right in. You believe that ending special elections, or at least there's a senator who was proposing ending special elections. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I think that it's going to cost a lot of money to have special elections, which they do now, but the Constitution has to be amended to do that. See, right now, the governor cannot appoint someone to replace a person who's vacating, and someone like Bill Emmerson of Emmett, the senator, he says he's quitting because his passion has waned. What's that all about? I mean, can you believe this? This guy was elected recently,
yeah,
and he says, my passion has gone away from being a legislator, so I'm quitting. Well, that's going to cost $1.1 million in special election funding to get a special election going to replace.
So what do you think is really at hand here? Here's a Republican from the community, as you point out, of R-Hemet out there in the Inland Empire, who says, God, really want this after all. Okay, so what should we do? Shouldn't the runner-up get a shot at it, or do you think we go all back to another election?
Well, the way it's set up now, we got to go to an election, and if we want to change that, we should amend the Constitution so it's more like the U.S. Constitution, where the U.S. senator who retires, he or dies, he's replaced by an appointment by the governor of the state. I think that would be better. It would save a lot of money, and it would just be an interim appointment just till the next election is held.
Now, there are a lot of politicians who are already thinking about their next job when they get the one that they currently occupy. But isn't that the nature of politics in California?
Especially since we had term limits brought in a few years ago, and that's been modified a little bit, but it's still there. So what happens is the state legislature is thinking, where am I going? If an open seat comes up, I'm going to step up one more notch by going for that seat and give up my seat, and that triggers special elections all around, up and down the ladder, which costs a lot of money, Dave. I mean, $1.1 million for the Senate seat, but it's a $500,000 for city council races in small towns.
Absolutely.
When they vacate them.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're looking.
They're looking for the juicy or bite at the apple. Let me move on to speaking about juicy bites. A lot of Americans today are hungry, and we're talking about jobs that don't pay nearly what they used to. I was having a conversation with someone over lunch about that very issue. But tell me about this new study that talks about why hungry Americans have a direct impact on the economy.
Oh, it's really awful, Dave, because they found in these studies, and common sense would tell us the same thing, that when someone doesn't have enough food to eat, they can't concentrate on their job. They can't do their job well. An example of one man whose wife lost her job, and he's only making a couple $1,000s a month. He keeps calling home to try to talk to her during the day while he's working to figure out ways to make ends meet. He says, should we go? Do you want to start working as a housekeeper? Do you want to find a way to do something else to make money? So how can he focus on his job when he's doing that? Plus, what about children, Dave? Look at those kids who don't have enough food to eat because of these cutbacks and the increase in poverty numbers. Look at the poverty numbers, by the way. This last year was 15%. Whereas in 2000, it was only 11.3%. So it's been growing tremendously, not just with the recession, but also with the cutbacks in government spending on programs that are needed. And in the long run, it hurts everyone, the economy, the individual, the children, who will suffer as they get older and not study or learn as well.
Yeah, but what's the option? What's the option?
The option is to raise the minimum wage and to ensure that people get paid better, but lower the tax on small business that it might hurt to raise minimum wage. But you've got to raise minimum wage, lower the tax on small business, or subsidize them to be able to pay the workers more money so people can have a living wage. I mean, you can't live on $8 an hour. There's no way, not even $10 an hour. So that's where the poverty is, Dave. That's why you have this problem. Food stamps are supposed to keep people afloat slightly. You know, it helps a little bit, but it doesn't help enough. I mean, it's still not enough to live on. I mean, $400 and something a month now, from $500 and something a month for food for a family of four or even three. It's way too little money.
Absolutely.
And I think we've got to do something about the increase in wages.
And since you talked about the whole equation of money and is it even equitable, maybe that's a word that you can't even use in the same sentence. Boy, was I caught by this article in Rolling Stone about Now we know the effects, the long-term effects of the secrets and the lies of the bailout, according to Rolling Stone. Talk to me about what you have concluded about what Wall Street did not tell us as they persuaded our Congress to give them those hundreds of billions of dollars.
Oh, believe me, there's a great, not only Matt Taibbi's article in Rolling Stone, which I've discovered and looked through the research on it, but also a great video, a documentary called Inside Job, Dave, which documented visually the whole shenanigans of the Wall Street banks pulled by starting with Treasury Secretary Paulson, who went to Congress in September 2008 and said at 11 o'clock in the morning, give me $700 billion or we're going to have a total collapse. The world economy is going to collapse, and so will all our banks. And he scared Congress into try to rush it through. But instead, 95 Democrats opposed it, and then Paulson goes back to Congress and says, you know what, if you give me $700 billion, we're going to have some accountability, and we're going to spend some of that on small homeowners to help rescue them. In the end, Dave, hardly anything was spent on small homeowners. Out of the $700 billion in TARP funds, the vast, vast majority went to big banks and big corporations to bail them out, and the homeowners only got like $4 billion of it to help the small and poor homeowners be able to recover and hang on to their homes. So there was a big sham that went on here. Not only mentioned that these big banks and corporations started paying their CEOs million-dollar bonuses. Some banks, actually, big banks on Wall Street, bought more jets, Lear jets and helicopters for their company.
But you see, they justify, Professor, they justify all of that by telling us that they have kept people on the job, and yet I look at this latest deal with J.P. Morgan Chase just a couple of weeks ago, if that long. Of the $13 billion, a lot of that goes back into Wall Street to reimburse them for bad judgment on their investments. Why should that be of concern to the taxpayer at large? I don't think so. And the little guy got very little of that money.
Very, very little. Less than $4 billion was spent to redress the grievance of those that were hurt by Bear Stearns and J.P. Morgan.
People who lost their homes.
That's right. People who lost their homes really will never see most of that money. And this is the injustice of what I call dollar democracy, David, where the top executives in this country, the bankers, the big bankers, they have so much money to give into our politicians that the politicians who are writing the laws and those implementing them do not do the right thing for the regular person, the common American who's the backbone of this country, the middle class and the working poor. They don't do the right thing for the regular little guy, but they give everything to the big guy. But
we,
it's just not right.
We allow it, Professor. We allow it. We as an electorate don't seem to get it yet. Thank you, Professor Peter Mathews, for the insights on these topics. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, guys, let me tell you, this is just to kind of, get you to think about stories, get us all to think. It certainly does that for me. Yeah, I react. Yeah, I get upset about it. But then I start to think, okay, so in this coming reality, the reality that's already dawned on America, how do we as Americans survive this new reality? The people at the top, they are laughing more than ever. They are making more money hand over fist than they ever have. You and me, different picture altogether.